In North Carolina, a city often celebrated for its booming banking industry, gleaming uptown skyline and rapid population growth, the story of home values and homelessness unfolds as a powerful contradiction that reflects a broader American housing crisis. Because while the median home price in Charlotte has climbed steadily over the past decade, driven by corporate expansion, migration from higher-cost states, limited housing inventory, and rising construction costs, thousands of residents find themselves priced out of stable housing, living in shelters, extended-stay motels, vehicles, or encampments hidden beneath overpasses and along wooded corridors near the city's expanding highways. And this contrast between prosperity and precarity defines the lived reality of many people who call Charlotte home. As new luxury apartments rise in neighborhoods like Uptown, South End, and Noda, and suburban development spread into Mecklenburg County's outer edges, property values continue to appreciate, creating wealth for homeowners and investors while simultaneously raising property taxes and rents, placing increasing pressure on low-income families, seniors on fixed incomes, service workers, and individuals already struggling with medical debt, job instability, or mental health challenges. And for someone earning minimum wage or even slightly above it, the gap between wages and housing costs becomes nearly impossible to bridge without assistance, because fair market rent for even a modest one-bedroom apartment can consume well over half of a worker's monthly income, leaving little for food, transportation, childcare, and healthcare. And when an unexpected crisis strikes, such as a job loss, illness, divorce, or car repair, the fragile balance collapses, pushing individuals and families into homelessness faster than many imagine possible. In Charlotte, outreach workers describe meeting people who once owned homes before the 2008 housing crash, renters displaced by sudden rent hikes of several $100s per month, veterans coping with trauma, young adults aging out of foster care with no support network, and parents working multiple jobs yet still unable to secure stable leases due to credit issues or prior evictions. And the city's emergency shelters, though supported by nonprofits and faith-based organizations, often operate near capacity, especially during colder months or economic downturns, revealing how homelessness is not merely a result of personal failure, but the cumulative outcome of structural pressures including stagnant wages, limited affordable housing supply, racial disparities in homeownership, and zoning policies that have historically restricted multifamily development in certain neighborhoods, thereby limiting the creation of lower-cost units. Meanwhile, investors purchasing single-family homes to convert into rentals have added competition to the market, further tightening inventory and contributing to price escalation. And as home values rise, so do expectations of neighborhood exclusivity, sometimes resulting in resistance to affordable housing projects proposed in higher-income areas, a phenomenon often referred to as NIMBYism, which complicates efforts to distribute supportive housing equitably across the city. Yet Charlotte has not ignored the crisis, as local government initiatives, housing trust funds, rapid rehousing programs, and partnerships with nonprofit developers aim to expand affordable units and provide case management services, recognizing that stable housing is foundational to employment stability, educational continuity for children, and improved health outcomes. And data consistently shows that individuals experiencing chronic homelessness often face overlapping challenges such as untreated mental illness, substance use disorders, or histories of incarceration, all of which are exacerbated, not solved, by living unsheltered. So the solution requires coordinated investment in permanent supportive housing rather than short-term emergency responses alone. At the same time, rising home values create a political paradox, because homeowners who benefit from appreciation may fear policies that could slow price growth, even if such policies expand affordability. And this tension shapes city council debates about density, transit-oriented development, and inclusionary housing incentives. While on the streets, the human impact remains immediate and visible, with outreach teams distributing blankets, hygiene kits, and resource referrals, and individuals forming informal communities for safety and companionship beneath bridges and in wooded encampments near the city's light rail line. Their stories often reflecting resilience and hope despite hardship, as many express a desire not for charity but for opportunity, steady employment, accessible health care, and a fair chance at housing they can afford. Charlotte's economic growth, fueled in part by its status as a major financial hub and corporate headquarters city, continues to attract newcomers from across the United States, further increasing demand for housing and placing upward pressure on prices. And while this growth strengthens the tax base and funds public services, it also underscores the urgency of ensuring that prosperity is shared. Because without deliberate policy choices to expand affordable housing stock, protect tenants from sudden displacement, and address wage inequality, the gap between those building equity and those sleeping outside will widen, turning the skyline shine into a symbol not only of success, but of imbalance. And ultimately, the story of home values and homelessness in Charlotte is not just about numbers on a real estate chart, but about the fundamental question of who gets to belong in a growing American city, whether development can be aligned with dignity, and whether rising property values can coexist with a commitment to ensuring that every resident, regardless of income, has access to safe, stable, and affordable housing. As Charlotte continues to expand outward and upward, the pressure intensifies not only in the urban core, but across Mecklenburg County, where rising land values reshape once affordable neighborhoods into investment corridors, and families who rented modest homes for years suddenly receive notices of redevelopment, forcing them to search for housing farther from jobs and schools, often into neighboring counties where transportation costs increase and community ties weaken. And this pattern reflects a national trend in fast-growing metropolitan areas across the United States, where housing supply has not kept pace with demand, and zoning codes originally designed for low-density suburban living limit the construction of duplexes, triplexes, and small apartment buildings that could provide more attainable options. So while cranes signal economic vitality, they also signal scarcity for those who cannot compete in bidding wars or meet stricter rental screening criteria. In Charlotte, stories of displacement are often quiet, unfolding apartment by apartment, as landlords renovate older complexes and rebrand them at higher price points, a process sometimes called value-add investing, which may improve aesthetics but also removes naturally occurring affordable housing from the market, leaving tenants with few alternatives. And for individuals already on the financial edge, application fees, security deposits, and background checks become barriers that compound hardship, especially for those with prior evictions or criminal records, even when those records stem from survival behaviors during previous episodes of homelessness. Outreach advocates describe how quickly a person can move from stability to crisis, noting that many households live paycheck to paycheck, and when rent consumes more than 30 or 40% of income, any disruption can trigger a cascade of consequences: missed payments, late fees, eviction filings, damaged credit, job instability, and eventually homelessness, illustrating how housing insecurity exists on a spectrum rather than as a single event. And in Charlotte's encampments, some residents previously worked in the city's hospitality sector, construction industry, or service economy, sectors that often offer limited benefits and fluctuating hours. And while the city's unemployment rate may appear low during periods of growth, underemployment and wage stagnation remain persistent challenges that undermine long-term housing security. At the same time, public schools in areas with rising property values often benefit from stronger tax bases, while schools serving lower-income neighborhoods face greater strain, reinforcing cycles of inequality that affect children experiencing homelessness, who may struggle with attendance, concentration, and emotional stress as they move between temporary living arrangements. And educators across Charlotte report that housing instability is one of the most significant hidden barriers to academic success. Yet federal protections such as the McKinney-Vento Act provide only partial relief, as transportation logistics and limited shelter space complicate consistent enrollment. Healthcare systems also feel the impact, because individuals without stable housing are more likely to rely on emergency rooms for care, increasing public costs while failing to address root causes. And studies consistently demonstrate that providing permanent supportive housing can reduce overall expenditures by decreasing hospital visits and interactions with the criminal justice system, reinforcing the idea that housing is not merely a commodity, but a form of infrastructure essential to community well-being. Within Charlotte's civic landscape, debates continue over how best to deploy housing trust funds, whether to incentivize inclusionary zoning policies, and how to balance market-rate development with affordability requirements. And while some argue that increasing overall supply will eventually moderate prices, others emphasize that deeply affordable units require direct subsidies, because market forces alone rarely produce housing accessible to extremely low-income residents, especially those earning below 30% of area median income. And this tension shapes budget priorities and long-term planning strategies. Meanwhile, faith-based groups, nonprofit coalitions, and grassroots organizers collaborate to provide meal services, job training, and transitional housing, recognizing that preventing homelessness is often more cost-effective and humane than responding after it occurs. Yet prevention requires robust rental assistance programs and legal support for tenants facing eviction, as eviction filings can appear on public records even when cases are dismissed, limiting future housing opportunities. And Charlotte's legal aid organizations report that representation dramatically reduces the likelihood of displacement, highlighting the role of policy in altering individual trajectories. As climate patterns shift, extreme heat and severe storms add another layer of vulnerability for unsheltered residents, who face heightened health risks during summer months in the Southeast. And emergency response plans must account for these realities, further illustrating how homelessness intersects with environmental resilience planning. At the regional level, transportation access influences housing affordability, because households pushed farther from the city center may find lower rents but incur higher commuting costs, effectively offsetting savings. And Charlotte's expanding transit infrastructure offers opportunities for transit-oriented development that integrates affordable units near job centers. Yet such projects require sustained political will and community engagement to succeed. Beyond statistics, personal narratives continue to reveal complexity, as some individuals describe cycles of hope and setback, securing short-term employment or temporary housing only to lose stability due to medical bills or family crises. And these stories challenge simplistic assumptions about homelessness, emphasizing that it is often a symptom of broader systemic imbalances rather than isolated personal shortcomings. Charlotte's identity as a thriving southern city with a growing skyline and diverse population stands at a crossroads, where decisions about land use, wages, tenant protections, and public investment will determine whether rising home values translate into inclusive prosperity or deepen disparities. And as policymakers, residents, and advocates confront these realities, the central question remains whether economic growth can be intentionally guided to ensure that teachers, healthcare aides, construction workers, retail employees, and service staff, the very people who sustain the city's daily life, can afford to live within it, because without that balance, the distance between the housed and unhoused will continue to widen, making homelessness not an anomaly but a predictable outcome of unchecked housing inflation. And the future of Charlotte depends on recognizing that stable housing is foundational not only to individual dignity, but to the long-term resilience and equity of the entire community.